Q. In what ways has the Holy Quran impacted your life? A. One night I felt particularly exhausted and sleepless. My mother came to my room and said he was about to go to the public library of Larchmont and asked me if there was any book I wanted. I asked her to look and see if the library had a copy of an English translation of the Holy Quran. Imagine years of passionate interest in the Arabs, reading all the book that could get his hands in the library on them, but so far never I had thought to see what was in the Holy Quran. My mother came back with a copy for me. We're so anxious that I literally took it from her hands and read it all night. There I also found all the family stories in the Bible of my childhood. In my 8 years of school, 4 years of secondary school and a year at university, I learned on English grammar and composition, French, Spanish, Latin, and Greek in use, current, arithmetic, geometry, algebra, European and American history, science, elementary school, biology, music, and art, but I had never learned anything about God. You can imagine that I was so ignorant of God. I wrote to my pen pal, a Pakistani lawyer, and I confessed to him that the reason I was an atheist was because I couldn't believe that God was really an old man with a long white beard, who sat on his own throne in paradise. When he asked me where I had having learned this outrageous thing, he told him of the reproductions of the Sistine Chapel that I had seen in the magazine Life of Creation and Original Sin of Michelangelo. I described all the depictions of God as an old man with a long white beard and the numerous crucifixes of Christ that he had seen with Paula at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But in the Holy Quran I read, God, there is no divinity but Him, the living one, subsistent, to whom never attains inactivity or sleep. From Him is all that it exists in the heavens and on the earth. Who can intercede with Him, without His consent? He knows both the past and the future, and they, humans, know nothing, know His knowledge, if not what He permits. His throne encompasses the heavens and the earth, the preservation of which does not bring Him down, because He is the Great, the Most High. Quran 2-255. As for the disbelievers, His actions are like a mirage in the desert. The thirsty will believe it to be water, and when if he approaches it, he will find nothing. But God will see before him, who he will ask him to give an account, because God is expeditious in the reckoning. Or, will be, as in the darkness of a deep ocean, covered by waves. Waves, covered by clouds dark, which overlap each other. When the man stretches out his hand, he can barely make it out. For to whom God does not give light, he will never have it. Quran 24:39-40. My first thought when I read the Holy Quran, that is the only true religion, absolutely sincere, honest, not allowing cheap compromises or hypocrisy. In 1959 I spent a lot of my free time reading books about Islam at the New York Public Library. It was there that I discovered 4 volumes of a translation for the English of Mishkat ul-Masabi. It was then that I learned that a proper and detailed understanding of the Holy Quran is not possible without some knowledge of the relevant hadiths. As the sacred text can be correctly interpreted except by the Prophet for the which one was revealed. As soon as I studied the Mishkat, I began to accept the Holy Quran as divine revelation, which convinced me that the Quran must come from God and not composed by Muhammad. May the mercy and blessings of God be upon him. Were your satisfying and convincing answers to all the most important ones in life, which I could not find anywhere else. As a child, I had so much fear of death, particularly of thinking about my own death, which after nightmares about it sometimes woke up my parents crying in the middle of the night. When I asked them why I had to die and what it would happen to me after death, all they could say was that I had to accepting the inevitable. but that there was still a long way to go, and like medical science I was constantly, maybe I lived to be 100 years old. My parents, family and all of our friends rejected as superstition any thought of eternal life, and saw the day of judgment, reward in paradise, and punishment in hell as concepts overcome. In vain I searched in all the chapters of the Old Testament any clear and unambiguous concept of eternal life. All the prophets, patriarchs, and sages of the Bible received their rewards or punishments in this world. The story of Job is typical. Hazrat Ayub. God destroyed all his loved ones, his possessions, and afflicted him with an abominable disease for test your faith. Job lamented melancholy to God about why he made a virtuous man suffer. In end of the story, God restores all his earthly possessions, but nothing is said about any possible consequences in eternal life.